All right, let's start with the Hall trade because
All right.
I thought about this yesterday because obviously it came out late last night for us,
Yeah.
and at first I'm like, okay, it's not great. Obviously, the return is not great for Taylor Hall. It's not a huge return coming back the other way, but I think that's the best the Sabres could have done. I don't know if they could have done any much more than that.
Yeah, because Taylor Hall kind of handcuffed the Sabres because he had a no move clause. So he was basically it was like the Kessler when he wanted to leave
Yeah,
Vancouver. He was like, I want you're only gonna trade me to either Anaheim or this other team. And like I don't want to go anywhere else. So I think that was the same thing with Hall, which kind of surprises me because he only signed a 1 year deal and Buffalo's really shitty. So it's like, what if they don't trade you? Are you going to stay on this team? Like, I would take anywhere but Buffalo and then just re sign somewhere else. So he kind of handcuffed Buffalo, and I think they kind of got the best. And I don't know if they can get a first rounder because if he had term, then I think they could have got a first for him. But in my opinion, I think Hall's worth a second round pick. I think he's,
oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I think
And
he's incredibly overrated, but he's a good player, but I think he's just incredibly overrated.
I think this is the summer. Once however this season plays out for Hall, we're probably going to have a referendum on how good he actually is because
Yeah.
he's got a 2 point something shooting percentage with the Sabres this year. Like he's
He has 2 goals on the season.
2 goals, so not good. And yeah, you mentioned a no move clause. The other thing is that I think he's making 8 million, I think, this year, or like 70
Yeah.
grand a day or something ridiculous like
Yeah.
that. Which I mean, probably too much for Taylor Hall, but if you want a good, second line left winger, that's your guy. Not a bad option.
Yeah, 100%. Also, Buffalo retained 50% of it too, so Boston's only paying him 4 mil, which I think it's like a good fit. Boston, like you can never use too much of like a speedy winger. Like it
So
never hurts, but
so this is the question I brought up with a couple of my friends last night, including SYP creator Scott, who is not here tonight. He's on vacation.
beauty.
Yes, lovely guy. Can't say enough about him.
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon was not able to come on tonight, which really is too bad. He's doing he's doing like car karaoke with what's his name, the other guy who's on CBS. He's doing that. James Corden.
Yeah, James Corden.
He's doing car karaoke with James Corden.
He has a hashtag segment he has to do.
I wanted to ask about Taylor Hall because outside of Pasternak, is this the best winger that David Krejci's ever played with? I have some names I want to throw at you that
I mean, he's definitely up
embarrassing.
there, but I mean that like 2011 run that Boston had, like they had
Okay.
some absolute heaters on there.
So Milan Lucic was like top of that list of wingers that Krejci's played with outside of Pasternak. I have late in his career Jerome McGinley,
Oh yeah,
Jake DeBrusk.
yeah. We'll see how he turns out, but
Nathan Horton.
he was good.
He was good.
Yeah,
And then,
unfortunately, concussions got the best of him.
and the other name, just for shits and giggles, I want to throw out there is Louis Eriksson. But
Louis Eriksson. Oh my God.
I'm gonna say Hall is up there for one of the best wingers.
I think he ranks 1 or 2 on that list. I actually like Nathan Horton back on the Bees when he was healthy. Like he was actually a pretty good player. And Milan Lucic, he fit in that system well. But I think Taylor Hall, in terms of skill players, he has to be number 1 on that list.
So the other thing I figured out today, you're gonna love this. I figured out how to fix the Sabres.
Oh, let me hear it.
So what you do if you're Kevin Adams or whoever's going to be running the Sabres, because who knows if Kevin Adams is going to still run the Sabres after the season.
Yeah, who knows?
If you're the Sabres, what you do is you're a dumping ground for every team's shitty contract with like a no move, without a no move, like without the restrictions. Basically, any shitty deal that you can just trade away, Buffalo should take those contracts and take draft picks from those teams for said contract. You're just a dumping ground for shitty contract, and you get draft capital and you do the long rebuild. That's my way to fix the Sabres. Like, it's a long rebuild.
Yeah, I think before they even have a sniff of contending, it's more than 5 years, I think. I mean, their prospects just haven't been turning out, but I kind of like where you're going with that because you can, control the negotiations if you're receiving a shitty contract.
So, well, here's the thing. So, according to Cap Friendly, estimated cap space for them next year, $32.5 million. So they'll have $32.5 million to play with in the offseason. Right now, their standard player contracts, which are allowed a max of 50. They currently have 23 expected for next season. Some names that I thought that the Sabres could go after. You'll like these names as well. Franz Nielsen. Shout out Franz Nielsen. James Neal. Matt Duchene. Okay. I mean, Duchene's not awful. It's just that's an $8 million deal with Nashville.
Yeah.
Like that's just a shitty contract.
As soon as he signed that deal, I knew it was going to be a regret. I knew he wasn't worth $8 million.
No, not a chance.
Especially the term that he signed for.
It's insane. Like him, the other name I have on this list is Ryan Johansson.
Yeah.
Both of them are signed to like shitty deals with term.
Yeah, it's awful.
Other names I wanted to throw out there. I have JVR with a question mark because JVR has actually had a good season.
He's playing really well.
It's just an expensive contract, and if Philly decides to rebuild in the offseason. The other three names I have Michael Matheson, Tyler Johnston, and Clayton Keller. None of those guys are bad players per se. They just have terrible contracts that Buffalo might be able to take on. Over under 8 years until the Sabres make the playoffs again.
So if the divisions go back to the way they are, they're in the Atlantic with like Boston, Tampa, Toronto,
Montreal, Ottawa on the rise too, Detroit on the rise.
I'm going over.
You mentioned 5 years because I had that thought in my head today. Like you mentioned 5 years. I'm like, okay, this is at least a 5-year tear down with the Sabres.
Like I said 5 years before they even like get back on, like before they even get an identity.
Yeah.
5 years.
But
right now they're just kind of scrambling to figure out what they want to do.
Do you think they trade Jack Eichel in the offseason?
I think he's going to be gone. I think Jack's had enough. He sees no future in Buffalo. Like he's going to waste his entire career if he stays there, right?
Yeah.
And I really hope he gets traded because I have him in my fantasy team and I plan on keeping him. So,
just throwing that out there.
Yeah, like I think he could be traded to the Rangers.
That's. I feel like the Rangers or the Kings are like the two like go-to teams for him to be on.
So I honestly do think he's going to be traded, or at least like reports are going to come out that he's demanded a trade, and then it might take a while for him to get the deal done. Because Buffalo, they have to be picky with him. They only have one chance to really get a good return on Eichel. So hopefully a lot of teams are interested. But I think he's gone after the season. I mean, like, how can you return? Right? They just got their 10th win last night. Like, it's tough.
So basically, youngish core guys they could potentially build around. Jack Eichel, Rasmus Dahlin, who Dahlin's fine, but he's going to be.
I think you can build around Dahlin. He's still so young. He's like what, 21?
He's just like this is the last year of his entry level deal. Like there's still so much time with him.
I know. And he came into the league as an 18-year-old and a defenseman. Usually defensemen don't come in until they're like 22.
Yeah.
And he started playing when he was 18. Like, it's absolutely absurd.
It's like the Noah Dobson effect where, like, Dobson was, I think, a top 10 pick. And he was, like, one of the best defensemen that year in that draft class. But now he's starting to finally, like, make his way into the Islanders. I got Dylan Cousins as someone they can build around. I like Cousins.
No, 100%. I love Cousins.
Jack Quinn is all right. And then Olofsson, Yoki Haru, and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's their goalie of the future. But I mean, it's dire
Do
in
you
Buffalo.
do you think they offer sheet anyone with their
I
cap
don't.
space that
I
they have?
don't. I mean, they need picks, and that's why I was.
Yeah.
That's why I think they should just go the taking in shitty contracts for picks. The problem is that there's nowhere but down. Like this team has to rebuild, and this team has to just
Yeah.
play like shit. The problem is that that's a terrible option in free agency. Like you're not going to get many free agents coming.
You're not gonna get anyone.
So
Surprisingly, they even got Hall.
yeah, and I mean. The problem with the Hall deal too is that that's like the absolute worst case, the worst case scenario played out for Buffalo in that, and even the Hall to some, I mean, certain extent. But I mean, for Buffalo, that was like the worst case scenario can't happen, right? And
I
it
know.
did with Hall. So it's too bad.